Princess Lilibet Diana had been christened. Why would they use a title for their children that represents an institution they loathe so much? Well, Harry and Meghan have never provided any evidence for that highly incendiary claim. It's not like they haven't had the chance to. After all, they pumped out 6 hours of self-indulgent bilge on Netflix, trashing Britain and the press for its racism. She was never pregnant at all. Instead, the videos embolden conspiracy theorists. They're calling it Megspiracy, and the pair are being subjected to yet more merciless ridicule. Meghan's Netflix series, released to the world this morning, is packed with, well, not really revelations, are they? It's sort of rehashed old revelations with a new twist. As it turns out, we've apparently been wrong all along. Britain is a nasty, racist hellhole where only magnificent Meghan stood up to all this, and the world's biggest victim.
Harry and Meghan Markle's surrogacy scandal has entered the mainstream media domain.
Do you think if Kate and William did this, do you think
they'd ever release it?
If they did,
you think Kate would release a twerking video,
use headlines
heavily
like that?
pregnant at the bedside?
Would people say things like that?
The thing is, these two will sell anything about their privacy.
A lot of the royal watchers were complaining that they felt like her posts on social media where she barely shows the kids is almost taunting the king, who doesn't know these children, and how unfair this is.
This crisis won't die down until the irrefutable truth comes out.
Harry and Meghan, it's more a case of never reign and never abstain, especially when it comes to nauseating self-publicity, which invariably backfires.
Harry and Meghan playing games that resulted in people unnecessarily questioning things. Again, every toxicity thing is result of them.
Prince William doubles down. According to multiple sources, it's now a matter of when, not if, he strips Prince Harry and Meghan Markle of their royal titles.
They're legally covering their backs. There's just too many unknowns. And then, of course, we have that the doctor that allegedly delivered Lily quit her practice 2 weeks after giving birth to Lily, or delivering Lily. That sentence there is missing.
And now they want to give their kids the titles of prince and princess, even though they don't live anywhere near the royal family. They don't do any duties. They do nothing to deserve it. They live in a mansion in Montecito in California and use their own royal titles to make loads of money.
What is setting royal watchers off right now is not just Piers Morgan's anger, but the fact that the claims he is pushing are now said to be getting quiet backup from senior palace sources and fresh reporting on both sides of the Atlantic. There are whispers coming out of the United States and the United Kingdom at the same time, and all of them point to one thing. Something serious is unfolding behind Buckingham Palace doors, and most people still have no idea how deep this story may go. According to the talk now spreading through royal circles, this is not some loud public showdown, and it is not a tabloid stunt either. It is being described as a quiet, cold, methodical review. The kind of palace move that happens without fanfare and without warning. And the biggest twist is this: the focus is not Harry. It is not Meghan. The focus, according to these claims, is Archie and Lilibet directly, their births, their documents, their titles, and their exact position in the line of succession to the British throne. That is why this story is hitting so hard, because once children's names get pulled into a constitutional question, the whole thing stops looking like celebrity drama and starts looking like institutional panic. And when you hear what investigators are allegedly digging through, missing signatures, altered paperwork, gaps in the public record, and a christening critics claim left no visible church trail, you start to see why this has become such a massive talking point online.
Things were dealt with a bit more, you could call it aggressively, when it came to errant members of a royal family. You sent them off to war and hoped that war took care of the rest, sort of thing. And so I think in this sort of modern era, you do actually need some way to, discipline may sound like a harsh word, but to share with them, hey, you're part of this. You have to be a situation like Harry, because Harry and Meghan left in part because they thought they could just do whatever the heck they wanted. Nobody was going to tell them no.
That they kept telling the world how ghastly the monarchy is. It's a prison camp. All the royals want to get away from it, but they can't because they're trapped in the world of titles and privilege. And now they want to give their kids the titles of prince and princess, even though they don't live anywhere near the royal family. They don't do any duties. They do nothing to deserve it. They live in a mansion in Montecito in California.
Supporters dismiss it as noise, critics call it a cover-up, and somewhere in the middle, the palace is said to be trying to lock down the facts before this gets even uglier. And that is the reason this whole story circles right back to Piers Morgan, because for months he has been hammering the same point over and over with zero hesitation. In his view, this mess did not appear out of nowhere. He believes it was built piece by piece, interview by interview, claim by claim, and now it is all crashing together at once. So if you want to understand why this story is blowing up now, you have to follow the trail he has been laying down for a long time. The question Piers keeps asking is brutally simple, and maybe that is why it irritates so many people. If Harry and Meghan truly see themselves as victims of the royal institution, then why are they still using the Sussex titles on every business move, every brand step, every big money pitch, every public rollout, and every prestige-heavy deal they can get? Why keep cashing in on the very label tied to the same system they say harmed them? That contradiction is the core of his argument, and he does not dress it up nicely.
How does it get there, Omid? Surely you as the author, I mean, you must be furious, right? You must be demanding. Heads roll. And you want names, don't you, ironically? Omid, about who did this to you? Who besmirched your reputation as an author? I would, Omid. I'd want to know right now, especially if I was trying to convince the world that I had nothing to do with it myself, and I'd never ever put these names in writing, and maybe some lawyer had come along and told me not to. I mean, that couldn't possibly have happened because you've given us your word, and as I've established so far in this monologue, your word is your bond and should be taken as sacrosanct. Well, I'm going to cut through all this crap. I'm going to tell you the names of the two senior royals.
He calls it hypocrisy on an industrial scale, and he has been saying it loud enough for the whole world to hear. In his view, those titles are no longer just part of their identity. They are part of the product. The Duke and Duchess of Sussex is not just a name on paper anymore. It is the brand, the hook, the sales pitch, the social currency, and the thing that keeps the spotlight hot, even when other deals cool off. That is exactly why critics say the titles matter so much in this fight. Because once a title becomes a commercial asset, any attempt to extend that royal branding to the next generation becomes far more controversial. This is not just about family tradition anymore. It is about value, leverage, access, and power. And that is where the old arguments around Lilibet's christening come rushing back in with fresh heat. Piers and others have mocked the whole situation for years, especially the idea that senior royals would rush onto a plane and fly to California to celebrate with a couple who had spent the previous years publicly tearing into the family. The commentary around that moment was savage, because to critics it looked like another example of public grievance mixed with private expectation. You attack the institution in public, then still expect the institution to play along in private. That is the contradiction they keep coming back to.
For to be left out of it, and she will win because she'll go to court if she doesn't keeps her title. I don't know, it's very hard. It's very hard to lose your title. But I do really hope that it's taken away. I mean, she's complained for over 6 years now. What a terrible time she had. She was nearly wanted to kill herself. She didn't want to live. Then what trying to get back in there somewhere. Nobody wants her. She's not going to listen to anything she's been told.
First thing is that these children are being raised in some type of freak show. You know, it's like they are Michael Jackson's children who were paraded to the world but covered up in masks. Yeah, but then remember, he covered their identities and their faces in masks. You know, so of course they're very likely to be messed up, growing up with such messed up parents who are using them in such a mucked up manner. So that's the first thing I would say. The second thing I would say on the titles is that I think what Prince William is acutely aware of, and this has certainly been my reporting, is that look at what happened when you allowed to run rampant for so many years, chasing the cash.
And it still stings. Then came all the chatter that Harry and Meghan had also been invited to major royal events anyway, including the coronation, and that only made the optics look even messier. Critics said they were stretching out every decision, every appearance, every response, just to keep the attention fixed on them. The bigger the event, the bigger the cloud of suspense around whether they would show up. And that fed the idea that everything had become a performance. In that reading, nothing was allowed to be simple. Every move had to become a headline. Every silence had to become a message. Every delay had to become drama. But what has Piers Morgan especially fired up right now is that this is no longer only about Harry and Meghan as a couple. It is about Archie and Lilibet and what those titles really mean in their case. That is what takes this from heated commentary into something far more serious. Because the second royal titles for children become part of a wider public battle, the entire issue gets dragged into constitutional territory, and the palace cannot afford to treat that casually. That is why the Oprah interview still hangs over this entire story like a storm cloud. Piers Morgan has long argued that it was one of the most damaging interviews ever aimed at the modern royal family. Meghan told the world Archie had not been given a royal title, and she strongly linked that to race. The allegation exploded worldwide and instantly became one of the most talked about moments in royal history. Piers hit back hard, saying the claim was false and deeply misleading. He argued that under the letters patent tied to King George V, great-grandchildren of a monarch did not automatically receive prince or princess titles at that point. In his view, Archie had not been singled out. The rule simply had not yet applied to him. That technical point became central to the backlash, because if the claim was wrong, then the accusation landed on the royal family with maximum damage and minimum chance to answer in real time. Piers said that was exactly what made it so toxic. He saw it as a lie told to tens of millions of people about an institution that was expected to sit there and take it. And now, according to critics, that old accusation has boomeranged right back into the palace's internal calculations. Because once children's titles are made, the centerpiece of a global narrative, every document tied to those children becomes politically explosive. That is where the reported investigation comes in, and this is the part people say is getting darker by the day. The argument now being pushed is that once the monarchy itself is accused on the world stage, it has no real choice but to look closely at every signature, every filing, every certificate, every public statement, and every official record linked to those children. If there is even a hint of uncertainty, the palace has to know exactly what it is dealing with. That is not how a gossip machine thinks. That is how an institution protecting the line of succession thinks. And suddenly, Piers Morgan is not the only one talking this way. Reports and commentary coming out of the United States, including claims amplified by News Nation coverage, have added more fuel to the idea that Prince William is preparing for a much tougher approach in the future. Multiple insiders have been cited in these discussions, and the line being pushed is dramatic. Not whether titles could be removed, but when. That is the phrase now sending shockwaves through royal commentary, because it suggests the decision may already be moving from theory to strategy. Even more explosive, the reported plan is said to go beyond Harry and Meghan themselves. According to the most aggressive version of the story, Archie and Lilibet are also part of the conversation. All 4 names, one sweeping reset. That is why this story has become such a monster online, because people are no longer debating one couple's public image. They are debating the future use of royal status across an entire family branch, and that is a much bigger battle. Piers has drawn a harsh comparison here for months, and it is one that cuts deep. He has repeatedly linked Harry and Meghan's situation to what happened with Prince Andrew and Sarah Ferguson, 2 royal figures, critics say, lived for years off the aura of the monarchy, while creating huge headaches for the institution itself. The point he makes is simple and brutal. The Crown cannot keep handing out prestige to people who weaponize that prestige while refusing the responsibility that is supposed to come with it. In his view, Harry and Meghan want the glitter without the duty, the rank without the restraint, and the status without the service. And then there is the money angle, which makes this whole thing even more loaded. Piers argues the well is drying up. The podcast deal is gone, the media shine is weaker, the business headlines are smaller, the launches are less dominant. The buzz is not what it used to be. So in his framing, A couple with shrinking momentum but an endless appetite for royal cachet becomes a very real problem for William. Why? Because if the commercial engine starts fading, the temptation to squeeze more value out of the royal title only gets stronger. That is why critics keep bringing up the children being raised in California, far from the working royal structure, and far from the traditions that supposedly justify those titles in the first place. In that view, Archie and Lilibet are being linked to a system they do not actively live inside, and that creates a new kind of tension. What do those titles actually mean in practice? What duties attach to them? What role are they meant to serve? And if the answer is mostly branding, that is exactly what some people inside palace circles may no longer be willing to tolerate. Then comes the detail Piers Morgan finds almost unbelievable: the claim that Meghan has threatened legal action if those titles are touched. According to the reports driving this narrative, she has told people around her that she will not accept the removal quietly and would be willing to fight. Piers's response has been blunt and mocking. What court? That is his whole attitude toward the threat, and honestly, it is the line that keeps getting repeated because it lands so hard. His position is simple: you cannot sue the monarch into restoring a title granted by the Crown. The Crown created those titles. The Crown can remove them. No court in the United States is going to order Buckingham Palace to reverse a royal decision, and no British judge is likely to step into a matter sitting that close to the sovereign's authority either. In other words, from Piers Morgan's perspective, the legal threat sounds less like a real plan and more like panic dressed up as defiance, and that is why he says the mood in Montecito looks increasingly detached from reality. Because if people there truly believe they can strong-arm the monarchy through media pressure, public outrage, and courtroom threats, they may be misreading the entire balance of power. The palace can be slow, it can be stiff, it can be secretive. But when it decides something touches the structure of the institution, it does not play games. It moves quietly, carefully, and with a very long memory. Now we get to the part that is really rattling royal circles, because beyond the title fight, beyond the hypocrisy, beyond the legal threats, there is something even more explosive on the table. Senior Buckingham Palace advisors are said to have opened what some are calling an internal verification review directly tied to Archie and Lilibet, their births, their documents, and their official standing in relation to the British Crown. That phrase alone is enough to send shockwaves through the entire royal debate, because the palace does not casually review matters like this. Piers Morgan says the monarchy hates uncertainty more than it hates scandal, and that may be the most revealing line of all. Scandal can be survived. It can be buried. It can be waited out. But uncertainty tied to bloodline, status, and succession hits the institution at its foundations. If there are questions, even messy questions, they cannot just be ignored forever. That is why the first major point of attention is said to be Archie's birth certificate, the first legal proof of identity for someone tied to the succession. A record like that is supposed to be clean, fixed, and unquestioned. But months after the birth, critics noted that Meghan's full legal name, Rachel Meghan Markle, had reportedly been removed. In its place appeared only her royal styling, Her Royal Highness, the Duchess of Sussex. No first name, no surname, just the title. And that is exactly where the storm gets even wilder, because once a constitutional document starts looking unusual, people do not stop asking questions. They start asking even bigger ones. What jumps out to Piers Morgan right away is something every sharp observer notices in royal bureaucracy. An edit like that is not normal at all. It is not the kind of thing that just happens by accident and gets brushed aside. Someone has to request it. Someone has to approve it. Someone has to enter it into the system and make sure it is officially logged. That is exactly why this detail keeps pulling attention, because when people reportedly tried to pin down why the document was changed, the explanations did not line up. Meghan's side reportedly said the palace wanted the change. Palace insiders reportedly pushed back and said the request came from Meghan's team. So instead of one clean answer, there were conflicting stories. No shared version of events, and no crystal-clear paper trail the public could easily follow. In royal matters, That kind of confusion does not calm people down. It does the opposite. It makes the whole thing look even stranger. Piers Morgan's point is simple but brutal. The monarchy runs on documents, process, and protocol, not loose storytelling. So when something tied to a child in the line of succession appears to shift, especially on an official record, people are going to ask hard questions. They are not going to just shrug and move on. That is why this detail still hangs over the whole story like a cloud that refuses to clear. Then there is the birth announcement. And this is another part Piers keeps hammering hard. A royal birth usually follows a strict and familiar sequence. First comes the verified birth, then an official medical statement from named doctors, then the palace bulletin. That order matters because it gives the public a sense that everything has been handled properly and transparently. It is not just tradition for tradition's sake. It is meant to protect trust in the line of succession. With Archie, critics say that sequence looked off from the start. The public was reportedly told Meghan had gone into labour after Archie had already been born. Then came hours of uncertainty. No hospital step moment, no obvious witness trail released publicly, and an announcement that, unlike the notices for George, Charlotte, and Louis, did not include the signatures of the attending doctors. That difference was not missed, not even close. Piers Morgan has returned to that point again and again because, in his view, those signatures are not decorative little extras. They are there for a reason. They help verify that a royal birth has been properly recorded. That is why he rejects the idea that their absence can simply be brushed off as a privacy choice. To him, once a royal announcement breaks from that level of protocol, it opens the door to bigger questions, and those questions do not disappear just because people are tired of hearing them. Now, the spotlight shifts to Lilibet, and this is where the conversation gets even more intense. Lilibet was born in California and announced through Harry and Meghan's personal team rather than through the traditional palace machinery. No British doctors, no royal medical staff, no Buckingham Palace bulletin in the classic style people associate with royal births. No easel outside the palace. For most celebrity families, that would be totally normal. But for a child tied to the British line of succession, critics say it marked another major break from long-standing royal practice. That is why palace watchers keep circling back to it. This is not only about where she was born, it is about how the whole thing was handled and whether the old royal standards still mean anything when a family is operating almost entirely outside the royal structure. Harry and Meghan stepped away, but the titles, the status, and the royal link never fully disappeared. So now, according to this line of criticism, the palace is being pushed to figure out whether those connections were handled with the level of formality the institution expects. Then comes the detail causing the loudest reaction right now, the reports around Lilibet's California christening. According to the story being pushed in royal circles, when church-related records tied to that christening were checked, critics say there was no clear public trail people expected to find, no obvious entry, no visible registry confirmation, no public acknowledgement from senior church offices in the way some had assumed there would be. That alone has triggered a wave of fresh speculation. Piers Morgan is direct about why he thinks this matters. A royal christening, in his view, is not just a glossy family event or a nice photo moment for the press. It carries symbolic weight because it links a royal child to the Church of England, which is deeply tied to the crown itself. That is why people are treating this as more than a missing detail. To critics, if the public record looks thin, then the royal connection starts looking thinner too. And that is exactly the kind of question Buckingham Palace hates having to deal with. This is also why the atmosphere around Montecito is being described by critics as very different from the polished image pushed online. Piers Morgan's argument has become sharper with time. He says Meghan's public identity now, the lifestyle image, the partnerships, the carefully shaped brand, all lean heavily on one thing: royal mystique. That aura gives everything extra shine. It gives the story status. It gives the brand weight. And if that royal magic starts to fade, the whole structure starts looking less glamorous and far more ordinary. That is what makes the children's titles so important in this debate. Remove those royal ties, and the image starts to crack. Remove the titles entirely, and critics argue the whole presentation changes overnight. Piers says that without Sussex stamped on every statement and every pitch, Harry and Meghan become something very different in the public eye. A couple who left the most famous royal family in the world and then spent years publicly attacking it for profit. That is not a dream brand. That is a warning sign. Piers also says something important about Harry that often gets buried in the noise. He believes Harry genuinely thought his children's royal identity would remain untouched no matter where they lived, even from California, even after stepping away, even after all the family fallout. He seems to think Harry believed the crown would always travel with his children, permanent and protected. But according to current royal chatter, that assumption may be crashing into reality now. There are claims Harry has been trying to reach senior royals and feel out where things stand, but that those calls are not producing the response he hoped for. Whether every report is accurate or not, the message behind it is powerful. Once the palace moves into constitutional territory, emotion stops mattering. Hurt feelings do not matter. Public anger does not matter. The institution focuses on rules, documents, and protecting itself. That is why critics say this review, whatever form it has taken, is not something Harry and Meghan can simply talk their way out of. Piers Morgan also reserves some of his strongest criticism for King Charles. In his view, Charles had multiple chances to act and never fully did. After Oprah, nothing. After Netflix, nothing. After Spare, still nothing. Each time, Piers warned that avoiding the issue would only create a bigger one later. And now, he says, that bigger problem has arrived and landed squarely in William's path. This is where Piers becomes very clear about William. He believes William is the one who will handle this because William understands exactly what is at stake. He has watched the relationship with Harry fall apart in real time. He has seen the damage to the family and the strain on the institution. More importantly, he knows the monarchy is something his own children, George, Charlotte, and Louis, will one day inherit. So in that sense, Piers argues William will not think emotionally, he will think institutionally. So where does this go from here? According to those following this Palace Review story, there are 3 possible outcomes being discussed. The first is a quiet freeze, where the titles technically stay on paper but slowly stop receiving meaningful recognition. The second is quiet reclassification, where official references fade and the children are treated more as private individuals outside the working royal structure. And then there is the third possibility, the one Piers believes is seriously being weighed now: formal removal. If the palace decides key royal standards were not clearly satisfied, critics argue the crown could move to remove titles and recognition entirely. No shouting, no spectacle, no emotion. Just the institution protecting the line the way it always does, through authority and paperwork. That is why Piers's line keeps landing so hard. The crown survives, people do not. Harry and Meghan may have built a whole image around royal mystique, but the palace still holds the ink. And if that ink is used against them one day, everything they spent years building in California could change fast. Drop your thoughts in the comments right now, because this debate is only getting louder. And if you want more royal updates, bigger twists, and the stories everyone is talking about, like the video, subscribe to the channel, and stay tuned for what comes next.